Hello and welcome to the Churros y Tácticas Podcast. This is your host, Kiyan Sobhani. It is Wednesday, October 14th, not Monday, October 12th. We did not record on Monday, October 12th. You did not miss anything, so wipe the sweat off your forehead. I know you guys were counting down the days to Churros releasing the episode this week, and you were waiting for it Monday, and we're so sorry it didn't come Monday, but don't worry, you didn't miss it for reasons we have explained on our Twitter handle, at Churros Tácticas. You can go there for exclusive scoop on what happened Monday. We couldn't record Monday, so we are here Wednesday, and as always, Diego Lorijn is here as well. Diego Lorijn, how are you doing?
Yes, good, my friend. Good. It's the end of the day, winding down. I'm just taking care of some late gardening on my terrace, if anybody's interested. Late harvest going on before autumn really settles in. So, but I'm going to close the shop here and go inside so it's less windy and talk some churros and a little dash of tácticas in there.
What did you plant on your balcony?
You had to ask, of course. I set myself up.
You didn't plant it, did you? Did your wife do it?
No. I do my own gardening. I'm very proud of it. There's I have a variety of plants here, and
you thought I was making a weed joke, didn't you? I actually genuinely was interested to know what you were growing because I'm fascinated by gardening. I've always wanted to get into it. I just haven't. I just don't. I guess I don't have the expertise and the patience yet to do it. But I'm going to get into it one day. So tell me, what did you plant?
It's my first time too, and I had to really learn about it, go quite deep into understanding sort of the life cycles of these plants, when a good time to germinate seeds is, and how to basically grow these girls into become full-fledged, beautiful blossom plants. And now the season has come to an end, so we're harvesting. I planted some of these a little bit too late, which meant that they couldn't grow to their full capacity. But in either case, there was trials and tribulations. That's what happens with these plants and gardeners. We go through troubles where we have to combat wind and injury to plants. But I'm very proud of how they did, and I'm very happy with my harvest.
There is Masterclass, right? That thing where they hire a bunch of people, the experts around the world in their respective fields. You can buy their Masterclass. There is one on gardening by a gentleman who is donned the garden gangster. He's in California, who is apparently a master.
I saw that.
I'm thinking of buying it. My issue is that it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of great reward. But I remember, and look, I'm completely ignorant, so this may even be silly to mention, but my cousin who had invested her whole spring and summer into a garden and growing all these vegetables and stuff. And I was like, so do you have to, do you just plant it once and then you get it again next year? And she's like, no, it's a seasonal thing. You have to do it again every year. You have to do this every year. And then by the end of after 2-3 months, she gets a couple tomatoes out of it. I'm like, see, I don't know.
But it's just so much better because it's yours. You've grown it, you've seen it grow, and I have to say the taste is much better as well.
Agree on that.
Yeah. So it's worth it. At the end of the day, why I got into it, because during the confinement days, we were obviously leading into summer. It was spring at the time. I got into it a little bit late, like I said, I caught up eventually, but that's really why I got into it. I was like, look, I have the time. We have a terrace that gets a lot of sun, so I put one and two together and used my time wisely. Let's say, yep.
For more gardening tips, patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. All of our we saved the secret gardening tips for the Friday podcast over for our patrons. Diego Lorijn, this was a jam-packed, eventful a few days of football. We recorded Friday, right? So things that have happened and then, well, a lot on the international football scene. We also discussed a lot off air about Barcelona, which we'll try to squeeze in on the podcast before we wrap it up today. But there's a lot of international football talk. There are some quotes from Mayoral, which I think are interesting to talk about today. Let's start with, I think, the most relevant Churros y Tácticas item on the agenda, and that is the Spanish national team, who have put in, would you say, Diego, 3 underwhelming performances? Is that harsh? It's not like they're lighting the UEFA Nations League on fire. What is your take of the last 3 games?
Look, I think the standards are always set high with Spain. Sometimes realistic, and maybe in this case a little bit unrealistically. I think it showed that Spain still has a lot of work to do, that it's a work in progress. But I think that it also shows clear signs of that progress is being made, and that there's good ideas and good talent behind Luis Enrique's philosophy, footballing philosophy. So if you ask me for the big takeaway, were these the most? I think underwhelming games. Yes, it's true. The match against Switzerland was an absolute snooze fest. I hate to say it because I don't like to say bad things about Luis Enrique, but it was not a match that will go down in the history books of being one of Spain's most entertaining matches. Far from it. And unfortunately, even though I think against the Ukraine we saw a better performance from Spain as a whole, Ukraine shot once on goal and scored a goal and ended up winning that match. Do I think that this project, needs to go tits up and there has to be changes made and players are not worth it or worth being on the team anymore, et cetera, et cetera? Luis Enrique is just not that coach? No, I don't. I'd like to continue to see the progress of this team and look forward to seeing it in action in the Euros as well, where eventually, that will be the ultimate test of how well this team is prepared and how, good this team will eventually execute as a whole. But before that time, I don't think that we need to make any rash judgments or decisions on these games that we saw at this point. Also, given the everything in its context, right? We have to put everything in its context. The times that we are in, the pandemic, everything seems so rushed. The calendars are so condensed, and everything needs to go according to schedule, which feels quite rushed at the moment, I have to say. But be that as it may, Spain lost against Ukraine. These were not, the most exciting matches. But I'm not jumping off the ship yet. Is I guess what I'm trying to say, Kiyan.
Yeah,
how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I count me in the camp that it's way too early to come to any definitive conclusions. I think we've seen a lot of great things under Luis Enrique since he took over. Things that continue to look great, possibly even better under Gerard Moreno and Roberto Moreno. Sorry, and I think that these last few games, weirdly enough, actually, when you looked at it, very similar to Real Madrid's issues. So, after 5 games in the UEFA Nations League this season, 4 games, the top goal scorer in the team is Sergio Ramos with 2 goals, and when I saw that, it reminded me of Real Madrid's issues, where it's like, some good creators, good quality, really good quality in midfield, pretty strong defensive line, and then you watch Spain play, and it's almost like watching Real Madrid play in the sense that Sergio Ramos is sprinting into the box, he's taking free kicks, he's taking penalties, and there is a reliance on him offensively. Whether it be right or wrong, there is a reliance on him. Part of the issue is that I think both Spain and Real Madrid don't have a lethal number 9. Benzema for Real Madrid is a very, very good player and a very, very good goal scorer. And anyone who argues against that and bring up his missed chances are correct in doing so. However, the numbers don't lie, and his goal scoring ratio is one of the best in Real Madrid history. It's even better than Raul. And so he's a good goal scorer. Spain has good players in in that position. And if you ask me, probably the best of the lot is Gerard Moreno. I think Alcácer has shown the most in the last couple of years, but he has cooled off a lot since his Dortmund days and his initial breakout with Spain. Morata, Janusz Mikhailik, who was the commentator that I had on the game I was watching against Ukraine, brought up the point that, maybe Morata gets back to a certain level with Juventus and maybe he works his way back into the team. I don't know. I'm skeptical, but it's possible, I guess. So there's a couple issues there. I think the other thing, Diego, I'm curious to know your thoughts and where you see this team in a few months' time. I'm having a lot of difficulty believing that this will be the team we actually see in the Euros. I remember initially you said that Pau Torres is probably going to be the starting center back alongside Sergio Ramos. I thought maybe that may not be true, although after a few games it seems like that you were right about that. But I have trouble believing that this will be the final team. These last few games, I think we've seen a lot of players who may or may not be part of the team. I think there are two players that Spain could desperately use, and that is Asensio and Isco. I also think, think people like Carvajal, they weren't there. I'm drawing blanks, but I'm sure there were other players that were missing too.
Well, see, because what I would like to see, if you ask me where would I like to see it go or where do I think it go, which are two different questions, but where would I like to see this go? I would like to see Asensio being included. I don't know exactly what the deal is there between Asensio and Luis Enrique. It seems that there is some bad blood or something brewing there on the stove, which is not entirely kosher between the two. I don't know if you saw the the back and forths there between of shots being taken between the two.
I actually didn't. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, no, here I can look it up real quick because I don't want to misquote anybody. But there has been some. So before I'll look at it in the meantime. But where would I like to see it go? I would like to see Asensio being included, and I would like to see Ansu Fati maybe in that number 9 role, Kiyan. It's a role where he has played in the cadetes and juvenil, so in the youth ranks of Barca, and he's not been put there since, neither obviously with the first team, which even I think for the Barca first, you could argue, why not put him in the number 9 role? Why not put him in a position where his previous coaches have put him, and he clearly, has made numbers and has some fantastic games. So he's used to playing in that role. I think it would add some quickness and some depth, agility as well for the number 9 position, and it would allow Asensio to play on the left and Adama, why not continue to have him on the right, for example?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I really like that Lopetegui did a lot of great things in the qualifiers with Spain before the World Cup. One of the things I liked that he did was that he had Isco and Asensio in this kind of interchangeable false 9 role. Most famous example was against Italy, where Italy just could do nothing but watch. Those two play at such a high level. May have been one of Isco's, or if not his, greatest game in a national team shirt ever. I think with this current version of Luis Enrique, I think one of the issues is, it is an issue in the sense it's an issue right now, and that it doesn't mean that it's going to be an issue when the Euros come. There's so much variability. There's so many new faces constantly that I think it's naturally going to be very difficult to find any kind of rhythm. I think once the Euros approach, you're going to have to start getting kind of just the team needs to practice with its, who are the best 11 players? Who are the 11 players that are going to play? Who are the 3 players that are going to come off the bench? Or is it 5 by the time the Euros roll around? I don't know. But, like in the NBA, you have a 12, 15-man squad over the course of the season. You use all of them. You call the players from the G League. Once the playoffs roll around, that rotation can become really tight, like 7 players even. I think that is naturally what's going to have to happen with Spain. They're going to have to find out who the 11 players are, because every game it's so wildly different. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to find the identity right now. UEFA Nations League, I don't know how many times you're going to... I barely remember that Portugal won the damn thing last year. I don't put too much importance on it, although it's way better than friendlies.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. I don't mean to slight it. It's
well
better than what it was. But my point is, like, I'm okay if they don't figure it out right now, but they need to figure it out by the time the Euros roll around, right? So they need to find out who those players are.
Just to clarify myself, and I'm happy I did this. Just it goes to show how clickbaity these titles are and how important it is to read the actual article, because in the title of the article, I'm now going back to Asensio responding to Luis Enrique, because they made it seem that there was a shot fired by Luis Enrique and Asensio was responding back. Well, Asensio was asked, or I should say originally Luis Enrique was asked about Marco Asensio not being selected to the squad. He was asked, what do you imagine he's doing? And Luis Enrique said something along the lines of, well, I imagine Asensio is just chilling and watching a Netflix series. Asensio has been then asked about it, and he laughed it off, and he was like, "No, I wasn't watching a series. Actually, I had the flu at the time, but I understand why Luis Enrique gets annoyed by these types of questions, because he doesn't like to talk about people that he doesn't select. I have a great relationship with him, and he's a great guy, and he's very funny." So it's squashed right there. There was nothing going on between Asensio and Luis Enrique. Well, then maybe we could see Asensio and Ansu up top. I think that would be, and Adama on the right. That would be pretty electrifying, potentially electrifying bunch of forwards.
I would like to see that too. I also do think, just bringing this back to the Ukraine game yesterday, you mentioned that, shit happens. Ukraine had like one chance on goal and they let it in. So a couple things there, and Luis Enrique said after, because there were questions about De Gea, who actually I think has actually been good during the qualifiers.
Always
are these games, but he was criticized for the goal he let in, right? And Luis Enrique was like, "You guys have to stop asking about De Gea. Like, that's not an issue here." And I think what he probably alluded to was like, the team needs to score goals. If they're, I don't remember the stats off the top of my head, but Spain's, the amount of shots that Spain had, the amount of chances, the amount of crosses, the amount of possession, which was 70%, compared to Ukraine, it was literally Goliath steamrolling David, but David kind of getting it in a lucky jab there. And obviously that is not at all how the David Goliath story goes, but you know what my point is, right? David is actually very strategic in taking down Goliath, but it did point to me to a certain problem, in that just because Spain dominates statistically doesn't mean that this isn't going to be an issue when the Euros come, because we've seen it enough. We saw in the World Cup where it's not like the opposing team needs to have 10 shots on goal to beat Spain, right? Wasn't it kind of the same against Iran, Russia, Morocco, where if they have one chance against the high line, they may or may not take it. But in the case of Ukraine and Russia, they've taken it. And so it can linger. That problem can fester and can be a little bit frustrating if you're not scoring.
It's true.
Yeah. So
it's true. And I think, then the number 9 position has been a problem for Spain over recent years, since Villa and Torres, I would say, which are massive boots to fill. But I think, I think not. I mean, clearly nobody has come up and filled those boots.
Yeah.
But still, you believe in talents. I think the talents that pack the midfield. I think Merino is clearly again a bright spot. And a midfielder for the future of this team. Canales as well. I think, given what we saw from him last season and so far this season as well, is a player that has really redeemed himself, and I think deserved his spot, or is deserving of his spot on this team as well.
The other thing that was interesting to point out was that Spain has looked to cross a lot, and obviously the way they're set up to, Reguilon and Jesus Navas, 2 terrific crossers of the ball. Adama Traore, he should get another segment again. Like, the Friday episode was the Adama Traore episode on Churros y Tácticas. He might as well get a segment here again, because he had 10 completed dribbles in this game, and it didn't look to me anybody could actually stop him. And stop him, yeah. He just bulldozes people out of the way, and it's a disservice to put it that way because like nobody is as strong as him. At least it doesn't look like it anyway from the eye test. But he's actually really good technically too, and so he has a good combination of both. But so I think what maybe some of the issue is that he gets down the line, he beats everybody, he puts a cross in, and it's not like you have that target man. So in this case, Rodrigo and Ansu Fati are not those behemoths who are going to throw those crosses in. Diego Costa, for all his deficiencies at this stage of his career, might actually throw some people off and throw some bodies around and maybe get on the end of those. So I think that's part of the problem too, is if you're going to have great crossers like Navas, you're going to have bulldozers like Adama and people like that. That's part of the reason why Sergio Ramos has to make those runs in the box from defense, is because there's nobody else getting in the box to meet those. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah. I don't know. It makes me wonder how he could. I mean, Adama also passes the ball. You know, he beats his defender and then puts in a cross, which are not necessarily high crosses as well. You could see a player like Ansu Fati run up to that. And be on the receiving end of it. They don't necessarily. We know from the most successful Spain sides as well as Barca sides that your forwards don't have to be towers neither in order to be efficient in front of goal. So
yes, but Barca didn't play that way to cross all the time. So they had different ways of scoring to use their. So they didn't. Obviously, they proved that you don't need those tall strikers, right? But they also played the game in a different way that didn't require them to.
That's true, but you saw under Luis Enrique's Barca between the MSN, we did see this a lot. You saw Neymar slotting in the pass from the left to Messi to find him on the top of the box. We see it now with Jordi Alba as well. Yeah. We have been seeing it. And
that's why I think, generally speaking, cutbacks are more successful than crosses because, players like Fati can control those and just slot them home. But also Barca had Suarez, who was actually really pretty good in the air. But I also think it was interesting. Like, to me, I thought when I looked at the names on the field yesterday, I don't imagine, with all due respect to Sergio Canales, who's a really good footballer and he has been fantastic. And I don't think he's a name that should be starting in the Euros. But again, this is not everyone is available. This is, again, still experimental. But Canales was really good yesterday, I thought. And he was one of the few players, like, any chance that came outside of a cross was him doing work, moving in both half spaces, providing an outlet for Traore and Navas, making sure he's almost available, playing those through balls to Fati. I thought Fati actually had that one chance in the first half. I think if he cuts that back to Canales is probably going to score that. So he was good. And I thought when Ceballos came in, he provided some more verticality that Spain needed. So I think that Spain has, the thing what Luis Enrique has, he has a lot of different options. He can play a million different ways if he wants to. And I think Spain has looked really good under him. And I think, again, the reason why I wouldn't overreact to these last three games is I think this is far from the finalized product and the finalized lineup that we'll see in the Euros.
Agreed.
Any other Spain stuff that's on your mind?
Spain stuff. Nadal winning his 20th Grand Slam. That's Spain. Spanish sports.
Spanish, yeah, that's pretty big. I'm not a tennis guy. I guess I respect it,
but yeah,
and I'm happy for Nadal.
Yeah, I mean it's very big. Yes, for sure.
Okay, let's talk about. I wanted to get your thoughts on what Borja Mayoral said today. So, in a press conference this morning for Roma, he said, and I quote, "When I got to the preseason with Madrid, I was supposed to leave the club quickly, but Zidane wanted me to stay. I told him that I had to leave so that I could get more minutes. I think the club listened to what Zidane had to say, and that's why they tried to let Jovic go." Let's ignore that this is Real Madrid or Barcelona and who you support, who I support. If you were playing on on a team, I guess, put yourself in these situations. If you're Jovic or if you're Zidane, how do you feel? Do you feel like your boy who you trusted just did some snitching, or do you feel like it was, or are we overthinking this?
I think there's a little bit of a player that got a little bit too sloppy and overly comfortable in front of the mic. I don't think if you're Zizou, you would have liked your boy speaking on your behalf, basically, and throwing out shots at a player that is under your ranks. I'm not saying that Zizou has going to encounter problems now. We've seen Zizou taking on bigger fish than poor old Jovic. But it's something you surely want to avoid, being the head coach of a club like Real Madrid, mid-season or beginning of the season.
Well, it's funny, like as fans, as media members, we always kind of, even if it's subconscious, we complain that press conferences are boring. We want people to be more transparent, honest. But when they're honest, we're like, "What the hell are you doing? You should just shut up." Yeah. I think this is one of those moments where, like, he probably didn't intentionally mean to do anything. He may have just let this slip. I think that it's a bad look because he basically implied that, hey, Zidane chose me over Jovic, and he wanted Jovic to go on loan. And I still thought I wasn't going to play behind Benzema, basically. So I was like, no, I'm going to go on loan. I think it is interesting, though, in a different part of this conversation, that Zidane is so high on Mayoral. Sorry, if you remember, in the past few years,
so high on marijuana, you
said. Possibly that as well. So high on Mayoral. In the past few years, Zidane has said multiple times to Mariano, and then also said it publicly, that Mariano, you should go, because for the sake of your career, I like you. You're a good player. If you want to succeed, you should go. He told this to him when Mariano went to Lyon, and that turned out to be a win-win for everybody because Mariano was awesome at Lyon. He scored 21 goals, if my memory serves correctly. And he said it again before this season, and Mariano was like, no, I'm going to stay. He flipped it on Mayoral and said, I need you. I want you to stay. Which is interesting that Zidane has been very high on Mayoral since the Castilla days. And I don't know, and I'm not entirely sure why. Judging by his Castilla days, Mayoral was actually the more promising of the two between him and Mariano. But since then, Mariano had that great stint in France, and Mayoral hasn't really played. And with Levante, he was okay. He had stretches of good play, but stretches of nothing too. This goes back to, I think it's interesting that we had this alternate universe where Mariano signs for Sevilla last season. Because you remember, Sevilla was like, we want to sign my God, if I confuse them every time. Sevilla said last season, we want to sign Mariano from Lyon. They tried to sign him, and then there was that clause, if anyone comes knocking, Real Madrid has a first right of refusal. And of course, that was the summer that they lost Cristiano Ronaldo, so they were like, oh, you want to buy Mariano? Actually, we'll bring him back. That turned out to be a disaster for everybody. Mostly Sevilla and Mariano. Except for Real Madrid and the Clásico, yeah. But, it kind of does suck. I really wish that clause didn't exist, just for the sheer reason that I would have loved to have seen what Mariano would have done in Sevilla with Lopetegui and those crosses flying in from Reguilón and Navas. And that sucked that we didn't get to see that.
When you talk about players getting done by dirty, like, I would love to know, I would love some microphones to be in front of Mariano's face and asked how he's feeling at the moment, for sure. That was such a massive opportunity for him, and I think a team that would have fit him much, much better than Real Madrid. Having said that, I also think that the minutes that he played for Real Madrid were very positive, and the biggest question is, why hasn't he been used more, if anything?
Probably the same answer to why hasn't Jovic been used more, and that is because Karim Benzema plays a certain way, and that's how Zidane wants to play all the time. You know what it would have been great for Barca is if you tried to tap up Mariano instead of Braithwaite last season.
That is very, very good. Yeah. What is this buyout clause? That would have been tasty.
I don't know, but it's but I think obviously that scenario probably wouldn't have been on the table just because it's Real Madrid and Mariano has insisted on staying even if he doesn't play. His buyout clauses, I have no idea. I can look it up.
Not that Barca would have been able to pay for it anyway.
I don't know, but maybe I'll try to look it up before the podcast is over. You and I had a lengthy discussion off air about Barcelona and what's going on there. Where do we start with this?
Silence.
Where do we start with this?
I don't know, Kiyan.
Okay, so so we have decided officially that we are not going to talk about vote of no confidence anymore until there's the next step basically manifests itself and we have real action. Okay.
Yes.
There are some financial difficulties we know at Barcelona right now. The players and staff, including everybody who works for Barcelona that is on this podcast, that have potentially been asked to take a salary cut. And there are financial ramifications that the club is paying for now, which really started many years ago. And after many years of financial mismanagement, it takes its toll. And obviously, whether Bartomeu stays or there will be a new president in the summertime, whoever is in that role will also have to pay for these ramifications. The ramifications of all of these bad moves from the past years have really come to the fore now. What can you say?
Yeah, that's. Mm-hmm. That's basically it, right? It's I think with the passing of the days, the state/crisis of this club becomes more and more apparent, and it should concern any really true Barca fan, because it might be that the ramifications of this of what is currently happening, or the state that this club is in, could have very long-term effects to the detriment of the institution of the club that is Football Club Barcelona. We feel the heat, like working, obviously living here, working for the club, you feel the heat at the moment. And as not just an employee, but also a member and a lifelong fan of this club, I have no problem in expressing my sincere concern. There's just so much at stake for everybody, and obviously for me personally, from family and everything. But I don't want to head into that direction necessarily at this moment in time. I think to talk about all that, but yeah, pick it up, Kiyan.
I'm happy to just be very silent and let you struggle through finding the words. But I think there's a lot of talk about, look, this has been talk for years and years, and that when Messi retires, Barcelona will turn into Milan. To be fair, a lot of those people said the same thing about Real Madrid too when Ronaldo left. I think in moments like this, whether you're a Barcelona fan or a Real Madrid fan, be very thankful that your club is a public club and not a private club. Why? Obviously, financial situations can be difficult to overcome. The fact that you can also actually vote out a board that's not doing a good job is huge, because you can't really vote out an owner. Milan is obviously privately owned, and I think they'll eventually work their way back. And this year, it's been kind of cool watching them. But you look at the situation in Valencia, where it's like there's only so much that the fans or anyone can do. You look at the situation in Manchester United, where it's like they will remain a big club, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find a Manchester United fan who is happy with what the Glazers are doing. And do the Glazers really care about the sporting aspect? It's very similar to the Knicks and James Dolan. He's like, why should I care? Because no matter what shit product is out here, the seats fill up and the seats get sold out. And so that the problem is that kind of comfort also breeds a lot of incompetence. So be thankful, I think, that your club is public and you know, think back to Ramon Calderon days for Real Madrid. Got that boy out.
Look,
and the club bounced back.
I think there's something to be said about Calderon. And
are you a Calderon apologist?
No, I was just going to make a comparison that I cannot do at this moment.
Oh, okay, all right.
But
well, can listeners pay for that content?
Well, they can sure as hell try. I mean, go on, sign up. Let's see how much people want to hear this.
All right. Good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right. We'll be back Friday, Diego. We have we also have the Classico date and time set, which I had plans. People have been asking me because October is a gong show for me, Diego, because it's my birthday and my sister's birthday, my father's birthday. And look, I don't.
You're October boy. You're a Libra then.
Yeah, and so obviously, a lot of people get mad at me in October because it also somehow my birthday always coincides with around the time of the Classico. It coincides with Halloween parties and coincides with like this person wants to do dinner, that person wants to do dinner, and I just kind of like I thank you. I'm just gonna watch some football. That's okay because I have to do that. So. So initially, I agreed to certain plans because Classico was originally scheduled for October 25th. It got moved to the 24th, so I had to send some texts around and deal with some people upset, but whatever.
Well, when's your birthday?
28th.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But
that falls during the week, so you have to celebrate on the weekend.
It's just like every night there's something. So then people are like, "What about this day? What about this?" I'm like, "No," and then it's like, okay, I finally gave them one free day, and then I was like, "Nope, Classico got moved. Sorry." So yeah, it would be.
Did we know? Did we establish that we were both born in October? I didn't know we were both Libra boys.
I think we talked about this last year at one point when we realized. No, I'm not a Libra though. I'm on the.
You're not a Libra
I just
anymore.
missed the cut. I'm a Scorpio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So much cooler.
Is it?
A Scorpio. Yeah, man, come on. I was always.
What's a Libra? Is it a something? Is it an animal?
It's a scale.
Oh.
It's a scale.
That's pretty cool.
You didn't know that?
I don't know. There's too many things to know in this world.
Surprised you don't know that. Like. Would have you were almost it. Like you could have been it.
Yeah, well, I missed the cutoff. Let me hold out. Let me look up what I would have been. Oh, I would have been a scale. I guess that's knowledge. Listen, Google has made me lazy in learning things because I can just look that stuff up on the spot. So yeah. Yeah. All right, Diego.
Well,
I think we've surpassed the threshold of football analysis. So,
yes.
Yeah. It's been fun. Yes. Have a good one, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
I know my heart is with you guys all in Spain. I know it's very tough, and it's tough here too, but it's tougher there. Down. So yeah, my heart is with you guys, and stay safe, stay sane. Better days will be ahead, I'm sure, and enjoy chatting. Talk soon. Take care.
Always. Peace out, boy. Ciao, ciao.